This is a lecture from Open Tuition. To benefit from the lecture, you should download the free lecture notes from opentuition.com.
If you've been following the lectures in the order in which the chapters arise in the manual, then you will have noticed that we've come to the end of the income tax section of notes. And I felt it was important to do a quick review of where we're at, because we finished this area of tax, and to point you in the right direction moving forward. So first things first, what I would suggest, and it is a suggestion only, but I have been teaching tax for nearly 20 years now, and pass rates are above national average. And I know it sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but I do know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you some guidance and some advice as to what to do next. So first things first, you should have watched all the videos, all the lectures in order, because they progress. One follows on from the next. Each chapter builds on top of the next chapter. When you've finished those, go back to chapter 2, which was all about income tax, because that will give you then a big picture of, because we'll have covered all the topics that are in an income tax computation. So employment income we've done, trade income we've done. You should be able to do the savings income, pensions that we've covered. There's a chapter on pensions. So all of that now you're bringing it back into one a big picture. Do the practice questions that are once you've done all the examples in the chapters. So you've read the chapters, you've watched the recordings and the lectures, and you've seen me go through the examples, make sure you understood what was being discussed, and do the practice questions. Now, after you've done that, you've got a choice. You can either do some revision now, if you want, or you can leave it until a couple of weeks before the exam. Now, if you are leaving it and you're going to move from this onto the next tax that's in the manual, which is capital gains tax, then when you come to do revision, will you go back and review the chapters and the examples, just to make sure that you've got all that information in here? Then you will need your BPP revision kit, which is full of examples. Now, if you're going to do it now, then just do the IT questions, Section A questions, which are the multiple choice, the Section B questions, which are multiple choice, and there's also some other questions where you have to do some calculations, and then the Section C questions, which are the big questions. 10 and 15 marks. Now, given the fact that there are lots of topics and now the format of the exam, they can ask anything. Anything. Problem is, you can't learn everything. I haven't yet met a student that can learn everything. So there will be some gaps in your knowledge when you sit the exam. Hopefully they're small little gaps, so you don't have any big issues and you're going to get more than 50%. Aim for 65, 70. I know that's a high number, but aim for that, because this exam is the foundation of the next one, the advanced tax, and you don't really want to have to learn it all again. So more than 50, aim for 65. That would be kind of good. All right, so if you can't learn everything, you need to know what to focus on, don't you? So I'm going to give you a couple of things I want you to focus on. These will come up in the exam. Okay, so this is your key topic areas you need to be able to answer exam questions on. Short form questions, larger questions. 1, the income tax computation. You need to be able to work out somebody's income tax from the question that you're given, however that works out, whether you're extending basic rate bands for pension contributions, working out how much personal allowance you're entitled to because you've got larger income over a certain limit, whether you can add them all together, take off the reliefs, and then work it out with savings income, dividend income, with the nil rate bands that go with both of those, and top slicing, all of that, especially, as I say, the savings and the dividends, because that's all they ever turn up. They only ever turn up in an income tax computation. So at some point you will be asked to work that out for those, because they will come up somewhere. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, benefits in kind. You need to be able to do the car and the fuel, living accommodation, use of assets and gifting of assets, beneficial loans. Those are key. They'll come up. Cars the most. They're likely to come up first. For sole traders, adjust profits. That always comes up. Adjusted profits. Why? Because it works for sole traders, partnerships. They can ask it in a losses question, and it also is the same for a limited company. Capital allowances. Again, sole trader, partnership, limited company. It will come up. Now, you're not going to get a large adjusting profit and a large capital allowances in the same question. If you're adjusting profits, the capital allowances figure will be given to you. If you're doing capital allowances, then the adjusted profits will have been given to you. But adjusted profits could come up in one of the big Section C questions for a limited company. Capital allowances could come up in one of the other Section C questions for a sole trader. Be aware that those two could come up. And then basis periods. So your revision should focus on those 4 main areas first. When you've been through the recordings and the lectures, revisited the chapters and done the examples, and on the practice questions, move on to the BPP kit, focus on those main areas. When you are confident that you can do those, and you have this, I know what I'm doing, then you can move on to the minor topics. But don't waste time learning minor topics when you can't do those 4 main things. Okay, so that's your focus. Now, whether you do revision at this point after income tax and then some final revision later on, that's entirely up to you. I would suggest you do a measure of revision now to make sure that you can do these things, and then a couple of weeks before the exam that you need to then be focusing on question. Now, the practice questions, so important. It's like an actor. He learns all his lines. He knows all his lines. He knows when he comes in, when he goes out, when he comes on stage, when he goes off stage. But he's never interacted with the other actors, and he's never done it at a dress rehearsal. Until you've had a dress rehearsal and you've put this into practice in an exam, you don't know whether or not you're capable of doing it. Obviously, all of this is on paper. At the end of the day, you've got to do this on a computer. So get online with the ACCA and practice. That's the last thing you do, not the first thing you do. So chapters, examples, practice questions, BPP, online and practice. Okay. You can do this. I have confidence in you. Go for it.